In the past few years, thanks to Manga Plus and the Shonen Jump app, we can now read every series in the Shonen Jump magazine concurrently with Japan, for free and simulpubbed. It really doesn't get better than that, but my greed knows no bounds, as there's one major thing we're missing from the magazine in my opinion, which we don't always get outside of Japan: Shonen Jumps one-shots. One-shots are an important staple of the magazine, being used to fill spaces if certain series are absent, while also showcasing new upcoming artists to see if they're appropriate enough for serialization. This is great for them as it gives them an opportunity to get used to a more rigorous schedule, and it helps test the water to see if what they make is popular enough to potentially survive as a series. We often get batches of one-shots related to various competitions as well, one of the more famous ones being the mostly yearly Gold Future Cup, which grants the winner a guaranteed spot in the magazine at some point in the future. I also have a whole video on that if you're interested, but today we're actually going to talk about some of these newer one-shots from the magazine, which are being translated by Yellowtail with some help by Rilliant under the Project Vinland Scanlation group. I'll leave some links down below to them and to the one-shots, since the whole purpose of this video is to put eyes on them, since I think they should be read and the work put into translating them should be commended. Now let's get right into the one-shots with Kamen, Kitan, Theo by Kento Matsuda and Togo Goto, who you might know as the duo behind the beloved axed manga Phantom Seer. Like Phantom Seer, this is a battle manga with a horror-ish slant, although what distinguishes Kamen, Kitan, Theo the most is its detective elements as well as the world it establishes during its brief runtime. Set during the 19th century, one day countless masks end up flying through the sky, landing throughout the world, each one granting the wearer a distinct power. And this is where we're introduced to Theo Arseal, the wielder of the Wolfman mask, who is here to assist the London police with a bit of a problem. A number of their officers have been mysteriously turned to stone, presumably by the power of a mask. Theo is then paired up with Eleanor, a female police officer, and they begin their search with Theo utilizing the powers of his Wolfman mask to see what the moon sees. I really love this power. It's perfect for a detective style story, being a nice little cheat that also doesn't give away all the answers due to the moon's limited view. Likely it can't see through buildings and stuff, which would be interesting to get into if this gets serialized. I won't spoil the rest of the one-shot since I do want people to read it, but there's a lot more than meets the eye with some very cool reveals and battle set pieces, which I think will get any fan of shonen battle manga fired up. As usual, from Kento Matsuda, the art is breathtaking. He has a flair for cool designs, snappy panel work, and the general quality of his art is great. Definitely check this one out if you're a fan of Phantom Seer or not, and I would love to see this get picked up and hope that if it does, it leans into its detective elements a bit more. Next up we have Youhei No Hen by Hideaki Nabe, a relatively new artist who participated in the 2022 Gold Future Cup, with him this time returning with an alien-themed one-shot. We follow Matsuno and Youhei, two students who live in the middle of nowhere, where it's just the two of them attending classes. As they finish up for the day, the two are warned to stay away from the mountains, as there's been a recent fire and UFO sightings there. The two discuss all this, and they have a very fun dynamic, with Youhei being an unenthusiastic and tired boy, and Matsuno being a super chirpy and curious girl, which leads them to the scene at the vending machines, where we get to see what looks like an alien. Tonally, I find this one a bit weird. There's some slice of life vibes mixed in with sci-fi, comedy, but it's all fairly dry and played seriously as well. Hideaki Nabe's art style is inky and scratchy, which sometimes looks quite nice, and at other times is a bit messy or unclear in my opinion. But the overall one-shot is fun, and I do like aliens, so I'd recommend you read the rest if you'd like to see where the story goes. I'm not sure this one has as much potential as a series though, but the core duo I can see being used or changed as they work really nicely. Den Den Night is a one-shot by Itsuki Takegamo, another fairly new artist who has yet to debut with a series. Their one-shot story follows Gilia Lobster, a hunter of Grimm. We see him battle with some monstrous figures, get paid for his work, and coldly walk away, only to return home to his cute snail companion. Den Den is positively adorable, and this contrast between brutal action and cute snail girl works really well. The two have some very fun interactions, with Gilia being way less cold than he initially seems, finding Den Den cute, and being more moral too, as he hesitates to kill her initially and ultimately befriends her. We get a surprising amount of time depicting their life together, and it's very enjoyable, all accompanied by some pretty stellar art. Some more serious things happen later on in the one-shot, and it gets surprisingly emotional at times, as well as having some very cool battle scenes, but I'll leave the rest for you to find out if you want to read it. I think this one would make for a pretty fun series with some adjustments, and monster girls are very popular now too, so adding a snail girl to the magazine would be a pretty good idea, I think. Jump has struggled with sports manga recently, with us losing some really great series like Martial Master Asumi, Two on Ice, and Green Green Greens, but maybe Masayoshi Satosho's Tonde hi ni iru Natsu to Mushi can break this stroke of bad luck that the magazines had for a while. This is a basketball manga which sees its protagonist Keiki Mizuhara quit the sport after realizing he's no good at it, despite the promise he made with Hanabi Tachibana many years ago, a fellow basketballer whom they both agreed they would meet back at nationals after she moved schools. There's a bit of romance introduced here, but there's not as much of a focus on it compared to something like Blue Box, as instead it puts more of an emphasis on the sport portion of the story, using their relationship as an explanation and motivator for Mizuhara as a character. While I did find the one-shot a bit overloaded with content, the general premise is solid, and the twists and turns it takes as Mizuhara returns to the sport are pretty engaging. If you want a glimpse at a potential sports series we could see one day in Jump in the near future, maybe check this one out. It's also from a once cancelled Jump author, with them doing Momoji no Kisetsu, a shogi manga which I did enjoy, so I would love to see them return in some capacity in the future again. And finally for today, we have Mono Sagashi by Mujina Muji, another newcomer who specializes in fantasy and has a very pretty art style. With the ability to see Usemono, the spirits of lost things, we follow Yakan, the Finder, who makes his living by finding things lost by others. The one-shot also presents us with a well-illustrated and detailed world filled with plants, animals, and fantastical usemono, giving it a bit of a picture book vibe. It's certainly the most unique-looking one-shot on this list, and that extends to the story too, with Yakan helping out another boy named Otowa, who isn't quite what he seems. This really surprised me with the level of art on display, as well as the world it built up in such a short time, which is accompanied by some pretty great battle scenes, as well as some really nice emotional beats too near the end. I highly recommend reading this one, as it has such a different feel to most of the manga we see in Jump, and I'd love for Mujina Muji to serialize something within the magazine, be it a full version of this or some other magical fantasy manga. And that was a quick look at 5 of the newest one-shots Weekly Shonen Jump has to offer. They were all a blast to read, and I encourage everyone to check them out. I'll leave a link to each of them in the description. Hopefully the translators keep on translating these for us, as I think it's very unlikely future one-shots will be made officially available from Jump unless they're tied to very popular authors. You reading them, talking about them, and sharing them would probably mean a lot to Yellowtail and Rilliant, and show that people appreciate all the work they put in. I also think it's fun to see what new mangaka out there are making, and getting a glimpse of this part of the manga world isn't something we usually get to see, and I'd love to encourage more people to translate one-shots like this. If anyone plans to translate more one-shots or has already translated some older Shonen Jump ones, feel free to get in touch with me and maybe I'll do something like this again. Also, if you did enjoy this video and want me to talk about more Shonen Jump one-shots or spotlight some that I personally find interesting and think are worth checking out, then subscribe and let me know in the comments. If you'd like more videos on Shonen Jump in general, I'd also encourage you to check out the channel, where I have a whole series devoted to exploring Shonen Jump's history, as well as another series examining the cancelled manga from Shonen Jump in my X-Files series. Please give them a shot if you're interested. And if you really like what I make, consider supporting me on Patreon, where you can get thanked at the end of my videos with a little doodle like Kinocha, Cody, Kaizuku Garu, Sora-Quill0, and Harley the Apothecary. Thank you all for supporting me and what I make. And as always, I hope you enjoyed, remember to be kind, and take care.